25th, 2026 Broomfield Council meeting. Mayor Castriota is absent. I am Mayor Pro Tem Jean Lim, and I will be chairing tonight's meeting. Before we commence the meeting, I would like to inform the public that item 7A regarding electronic bike enforcement is being pulled from tonight's agenda. After further discussion, we have determined that this topic requires a more comprehensive review. We will move this item to a future study session to ensure we thoroughly address community questions and policy objectives regarding electric vehicles on our trails and streets, and to develop a clear, enforceable, well-understood ordinance. Information on how to watch, attend, and participate, as well as agendas, minutes, and recordings can be found on Broomfield's website at www.broomfield.org/council meetings. Public comment is welcome, in person or through our call-in service. Instructions for calling in are available on the council meetings webpage. Public comment will be limited to 90 minutes total per item. The first 1 to 15 participants in the queue have 3 minutes to speak. The next 16 to 25 participants in the queue have 2 minutes to speak. And if time remains, the next 26 plus participants in the queue have 1 minute to speak. For any hard of hearing residents present, we have wireless headsets available through our AV team in the back of council chambers. The council regular meeting is called to order. Mayor Castriota and Councilmember McKenzie are absent. There are 9 council members in attendance. A quorum of the council is present. We begin this meeting by acknowledging that we gather on the ancestral and unceded lands of the Arapaho, Cheyenne, Ute, and other Native peoples. Indigenous peoples have cared for this land for generations and continue to maintain deep cultural and spiritual ties to it. As the City and County of Broomfield, we recognize the responsibility to honor this legacy and the enduring presence of Native communities. May this acknowledgement inspire action that fosters greater understanding, truth, and respect for Indigenous peoples. Will everyone please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will plan on a 10-minute break at approximately 8 p.m. We will begin with council's review and approval of this evening's agenda. Council may add or remove items from the consent agenda, or council may revise the order of business for the meeting. As a reminder, item 7A regarding e-bikes and other motorized vehicles has been pulled from the agenda. Does any member of the council have any comments or questions regarding this evening's agenda? Are there any objections to this agenda being approved without item 7A? Seeing none, this agenda is approved. Our first item under petitions and communications this evening is a proclamation declaring September 2026 as Caseworker Appreciation Month. Will the representatives here to accept the proclamation please come to the podium?
Mayor Pro Tem and City Council members, I'm Tiffany Ramos, Division Manager for Child, Adult, and Family Services Division, and some of the team members behind me. You also hear us referred to as CAFs. I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity to recognize the amazing work this team does every day. What makes this team so special is that their why is clear. They don't do this work simply because it is their job. They do this work because they refuse to give up on people. They see the person behind the crisis. They believe individuals are capable of change, and they're willing to keep showing up, asking hard questions, and looking for solutions even when the path forward isn't clear. That commitment isn't just something we talk about. It shows up in the work they do every day and the lives we serve. In 2025, we received 1,433 calls of both child and adult abuse and neglect concerns. The intake team completed 169 assessments of child abuse and neglect. The adult protection team supported 85 at-risk adults through formal investigations and a number 36 adults through outreach through prevention. 106 families were served by our child welfare prevention team to assess critical services to prevent further system involvement. We conducted 255 searches to support and identify relatives for natural support so kids can remain with their families. And we supported 11 of those relatives to ensure that those children could remain with their extended family members. For families who remained involved with our system, after our initial assessment, our team made 252 contacts with children and 228 contacts with parents. And finally, the permanency team closed 9 cases in 2025. 8 of those 9, the child was returned to one of those parents. These numbers give us a snapshot of the work, but they don't tell the full story. Behind every one of those numbers is a person or a family. Those numbers don't show the many late-night home visits away from their own families, sitting with people who have just lost their loved ones, or lying awake at night worrying about the human they sat across from that day. And yet they keep showing up. They challenge us to look at things differently, ask better questions, and keep pushing for better outcomes. They hold a tight standard, and honestly, leading a team like this keeps me on my toes. The bar is high, and many days I make sure that we know that. This is the strongest group I've ever had the privilege to lead. And the truth is, they make me a better leader and a better human. They remind me to stay grounded in what matters, to lead both with courage and compassion, and to never lose sight of the people at the heart of this work. I'm truly grateful to work for this team and lead this team, and also for the City of County of Brookfield. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us this evening. I will now summarize the proclamation. Caseworkers in Broomfield's prevention, child welfare, and adult protection system provide essential support, advocacy, and resources to vulnerable children, youth, adults, and families. Despite the challenging and emotionally demanding nature of their work, they serve with compassion, professionalism, and dedication while leading innovative person and family-centered approaches that promote safety, stability, and long-term well-being. Through programs such as Adult Protections Outreach, Respite, and Family Search and Engagement, they strengthen families, build connections, and improve the lives of those they serve. This proclamation expresses Broomfield's deep gratitude for their leadership, service, and unwavering commitment to the community. Therefore, as Mayor Pro Tem, I hereby declare and proclaim September 26th as Caseworker Appreciation Month in Broomfield. Do any of the other representatives wish to make any remarks?
Mayor Pro Tem, if I may, we do have an award-winning team standing before you. They just won the CSTAT award, and we also won. Ms. Bonnie Steele, will you introduce our champion for calves that won one of 5 in the state, was awarded as the best state caseworker? Ms. Steele, will you introduce her, please?
I will. This is Valerie Aparicio. I do struggle with that still, which is embarrassing. But I gotta just say, Valerie joined our team as the permanency supervisor, and she's just been an incredible team member. And just really came in and earned the trust of her team and has just been a valuable individual for our team as well in pushing practice. Valerie.
As you can tell, I don't like being the center of attention, but I appreciate this. I will just echo what Tiffany said of this role has made me a better professional and a better human in every sense of the world. I am very honored to be part of Broomfield. I'm happy that one of my team members, Aubrey Briggs, is here. She is one of the community outreach specialists that works on our prevention team. And so I just want to say thank you. It's been an honor. And this is just going to challenge me to do better even next year. So thank you.
And since she introduced her worker, I'll introduce one of mine. This is Jamie Preston. He's amazing and pushes practice as well. And then we have Glinda Rica as well, who's one of our CHAPE workers.
Okay, thank you. We will now move to public comments. If there's anyone who would like to be heard, please come to the podium and state your name and neighborhood for the record. For anyone using the call-in service, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak on this item. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Seeing none. Comments and questions from council are next. Are there any comments or questions? Councilmember Hinkle.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Lim. Thank you all for being here tonight. As much as you don't like to be in the limelight, the work that you do underneath and away from attention and really what everyone else knows what you do, you have to do a lot with families close by, and you're not even allowed to share with anyone. So I feel like amongst yourselves, having a good team is just very important, and I appreciate, Tiffany, your leadership. And within the city and county of Broomfield, how do we support you moving forward? How do we get out to the community? What initiatives would you like to see done in Broomfield? Or what would you like people to know about the future of your work and just sort of the vision that you have for Broomfield?
Yeah, I really appreciate that question and feels loaded because many know that I'm a big dreamer. So I think something that we're seeing both in adult protection and in child welfare is this perspective about prevention, right? That we're really trying to get away from this incident happened that is unfortunate and trying to investigate a situation and really trying to look at families or adults in this holistic place, right? What we know is that there are risk factors that most of our investigations around neglect are poverty related. And so when we think about ensuring basic needs, I think that would be something that I would advise all of you to think about, right? Like childcare, rental assistance, apartments or rental properties that feel reasonable for someone who's potentially a single parent that is working and trying to make ends meet. And so I think those would be things that I would consider or think about. Currently, what we have to do is our prevention team doesn't receive additional funding from the state. And so we use existing resources and reallocate them to other positions because there is no funding for them. Luckily, our work is paying off, that we do see a reduction in like formalized child welfare, adult protection systems. And we're seeing an increase in prevention, which is, we're saying that we're meeting the mark. And right, we have to use existing resources. So that would be something else to consider. I think some of you have seen Broomfield is engaged in a Rethinking Terminational Parental Rights pilot. And what that means is Rethinking Terminational Parental Rights is where we consider it the civil death penalty for parents. And so that means if you have parental rights terminated, you have no legal right to your child ever again. Changes their birth certificate, changes their last name. It permanently erases their history. And something we're thinking about is there is a time and a place when in order to keep kids safe, we have to do that. And there are times when that's not necessary. However, our system is sort of set up in a way that that feels easier than it should be, right? The weight of that decision systematically is not always really considered in the way it should. And so Broomfield has really taken a strong stance of say, if that is the right choice to keep kids safe, we will do that. And we want to make sure we've exhausted all efforts and supported families in the best way possible to maintain any sort of connection with their families of origin.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
really appreciate all of that work. That's a great vision. And I can just tell that you want to work synergistically with other people like our Broomfield Early Childhood Council and
Yeah.
other people as well
100%.
that are really good thought partners, because childcare is infrastructure, much like our roads, much like our computer systems. Childcare is infrastructure, and I hope that we get to that place.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Hinkle. And thank you for the important work that you do. I will bring you the proclamation in your honor, and then I'd like to ask council to come in the front and with the recipients, and we'll take a picture. We have the good fortune to have two proclamations this evening. Next, under petitions and communications, we have a proclamation declaring September 2026 as Workforce Development Month in Broomfield. Will the representatives here to accept the proclamation please come to the podium? While they're doing that, I will summarize the proclamation. Workforce Development Month recognizes the vital role a resilient, adaptable, and skilled workforce plays in supporting a strong economy and a thriving Broomfield community. The proclamation highlights Broomfield's commitment to empowering job seekers through no-cost career resources, training, education, and upskilling opportunities provided by Workforce Colorado. It also recognizes the importance of supporting local employers, strengthening talent pipelines, and fostering collaboration among businesses, government agencies, and community partners. Above all, Workforce Development Month celebrates the dedicated professionals who help connect individuals with meaningful employment, career advancement, and long-term economic self-sufficiency. Therefore, as Mayor Pro Tem, I hereby declare and proclaim September 2026 as Workforce Development Month in Broomfield and encourage all residents, business leaders, and community organizations to leverage this month to celebrate our local workforce, explore the resources available through Workforce Colorado, connecting our community to opportunity. Would the representatives like to make any remarks?
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members, on behalf of the Broomfield Workforce Center, thank you so much for this proclamation. Each September, the Broomfield Workforce Center celebrates Workforce Development Month by honoring our customers, both job seekers and employers, and recognizing our dedicated workforce team who work daily to help create opportunities for others. This always gets me, so forgive me. Serving as a crucial cornerstone that helps sustain our regional economic vitality, the Broomfield Workforce Center connects thriving businesses with talented job seekers. As a division of Human Services, we operate with a steadfast commitment to inclusivity as one of our core values, ensuring our services remain accessible to all community members. The workforce system as a whole is deeply committed to the belief that every individual who desires to work brings unique value to our community, and we take pride in fostering an inclusive environment where all can contribute. This last year, the workforce team came up with a team charter. The 3 team members that wrote it are here tonight to share it with you: Mitch Fetro, Claudia McVeigh, and Susan Spriggs.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Lim and City Council members. I'm Sue Spriggs, and I'm an administrative assistant at the Workforce Center. We decided as a team, we needed a team charter so that we would be unified in how we wanted to come together as a team, but also how we wanted the community and our customers to see us as a team. So this is what we came up with. Can you switch to the next slide, please? So this is our team charter. This is what we came up with. And after a few iterations, this was what it says and how it's designed. And we took one of our lunch breaks to tie-dye shirts. Show you what it looks like. And we wear them for some of our team events, and it's just kind of fun. Okay, so I'm going to just read the first part, and then Chloe and Mitch will chime in for the rest. So it's SERVE is kind of the acronym. The Broomfield Workforce Team believes that above all, we should always lead with positive intent, consideration, and respect to serve our customers, community, and each other as team members. So the S stands for support. Support businesses in finding skilled talent and job seekers in finding sustainable employment. Oh, and I brought some mini serves in case anybody wants one. I'll put them in the back.
Okay, can you hear me? All right. So I am under ensure that all individuals, regardless of background, have the chance to succeed through equitable access to services and opportunities. Reach out to community partners to assist in fostering and building positive relationships with job seekers and employers to support a thriving community.
And I'll handle the V and the E. V for value. We want to value our team members by cultivating a collaborative environment where shared success is built upon mutual respect and encouragement with a commitment to a healthy work-life balance. And then E, to empower. We want to empower individuals to take control of their career paths and achieve their full potential and live their best lives. I'm gonna give it back to Celia.
Okay, thank you all. Before listing our events for September, I would like to sincerely thank our Broomfield Workforce Board, especially our board chair, Brian Holinka, Executive Director of Coal Creek Adult Education Center, and Council Member Julie Twist, who also serves on our board. Thank you. Finally, here's a list of all of our events for Workforce Development Month. Workforce Colorado Career Fair, statewide virtual event. A big thank you to Linda back here. Broomfield kind of spearheaded this, and now it's statewide. So we're pretty proud of that. On September 3rd, Unlock Your Future with AI, and that is our Mitch Fetro. And on September 8th is Built to Serve virtual workshop. And that's actually our police department is doing that. It's about getting into public service. On September 10th, it's Your Next Move, Broomfield Job Club. September 11th is Empower Your Path, telling our story. September 15th, actually, Thrive at 50 Plus, a job search workshop for experienced professionals. And then September 16th is Workforce Colorado Job Fair. And that's also a statewide event I'm sorry. I gotta take a breath. Most workforce centers in Colorado will be doing a job fair. And then on September 22nd, we will have an open house and then we'll have a employer youth employment law, and then your next move on September 24th. Okay. You can find all the specifics at broomfieldworkforce.org. So thank you. And let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you. We will now move to public comments. If there's anyone who would like to be heard, please come to the podium and state your name and neighborhood for the record. For anyone using the call-in service, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak on this item. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Comments and questions from council are next. Are there any comments or questions? Councilmember Twist.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and thank you for the presentation. As Ms. Harden mentioned, I have the honor of representing council on our Broomfield Workforce Board. It has been such a joy to get to know some of these folks and see the work that they do and the impact that they have in our community. I also serve on the statewide Colorado Workforce Rural Alliance Board, mouthful. And every time I go to anything, talking to people from the state, it is, oh, you're from Broomfield. Hey, so, and it's always a wonderful story about someone at the Broomfield office or some program they did or something. And it is really wonderful. And I think you're an exceptional group of folks, and I look forward to seeing what you do. I don't know. I had a time frame there. I lost it, I guess. I don't know. In perpetuity. Be wonderful. Thank you.
September Workforce Month, we'll see what you're doing. So we'll be glad to see that. Okay, Councilmember Hinkle.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you all for being here tonight. I know a lot of people who work at the Workforce Center, working with our refugees, helping find work outside of working at Amazon and finding equitable work as well. Explaining to them that they don't need to put pictures of their families out in Afghanistan. They put pictures of their families on their resume as part of their resume. It's been interesting to kind of see the difference in cultural values and just society. So helping people really get assistance and also dollars to help them have a re-education. For instance, one of our females was not able to work in human resources yet until she was certified. And you all helped make that happen. And I feel like that was a really good resource for people who have served our country overseas from another country. And you guys are doing a lot of great work here. So I appreciate you all.
Thank you. It's nice to see all of you again. I spent a few years as the council assignee, so I know the good work that all of you do, and I'm pleased, always pleased to know when it's September Workforce Month that we get to focus on that and in the public, and so the public knows, both the businesses and the job seekers know all the resources that we have available. Thank you for joining us. I will give you the proclamation, and please join us in the front for a photo. The final item under petitions and communications this evening is an update on the Scientific and Cultural Facilities District's reauthorization. Would the SCFD representative please come to the podium, introduce yourself, and provide the update?
Thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem. Good evening, members of council. Thank you so much for having me this evening. I would like to also thank Mayor, who I know is not here tonight, and all of the incredible CCOB staff who've just been amazing partners with us. I'd also like to give a shout out to our SCFD Board of Directors Broomfield appointee, Devin Schaff, who's with us tonight. I am Andrea Alba. I'm the Executive Director of the SCFD. I have been in this role for almost a whole year, so new enough to still be learning, but continuing to build my knowledge base. And just congratulations to the Human Services team for the wonderful proclamations that you recognize them with. As a former social worker that worked for Denver Human Services for 11 years, it's special to see that still being recognized. So congratulations to all of you, really important. So I know tonight it'll be brief. I'm happy to take questions as we move through. Do I move the slides or is someone else advancing? Okay, we can go ahead and go to the next slide. Thank you. Every other year, the Colorado Business Committee for the Arts does a biennial economic activity study. And so this slide here represents 2024 data that came out of that study. You can see there, we funded 304 organizations across the 7-county metro region. We are still the only sales tax funded initiative in the country that funds a 7-county region. So we are the envy of the country, been around for nearly 40 years. We're in our 38th year now and growing, as you'll hear in some subsequent slides here. A couple of things I want to call out. This is the moment where I like to say if the joy, awe, and wonder isn't enough to build the business case for the value proposition of why SCFD is so important, let's talk about the economic development. You can see here in 2024 alone, we created over 14,000 jobs. We created $3.12 billion in economic impact for the region through SCFD funding distributions, as well as incredible impact to educational experiences and free cultural experiences. So we want to definitely see that continue as we look at the growth of SCFD. Next slide, please. So this snapshot just zooms into Broomfield County. So as of 2025 data, 8 county-based funded organizations are represented in the district. 368,000 Broomfield County residents engaged in district programming. So that means across all the counties, 368,000 of Broomfield residents are engaging, not just in Broomfield, but across the district. And we're really proud that through SCFD and all of our grantees and partners, we touch every single public school district in the region. And so we continue to look for ways to deepen and enrich those experiences with youth. Next slide, please. So this slide and the next one are really the meat of what I wanted to put on your radar this evening, as well as get any thoughts or feedback. The last reauthorization that we had for the state statute was in 2016. So we reauthorize about every 12 years. As part of that reflective work, our staff identified that we needed to deepen that experience with more transparency, stronger communication, and ensuring that equity is present in how we think about this work. So we decided to bring in some experts to help us navigate some very strong and intentional community engagement efforts that you see here reflected in 5 phases. We brought those consultants in, GBSM, they're local Colorado-based firms that specializes in PR, community engagements, and just deepening that community building focus. We kicked off in December of last year. We're actively in phase 2 right now. In fact, we just completed 9 listening sessions across the district. We had 1 in each of the 7 counties in person and 2 virtual district-wide sessions. We had over 300 participants join those sessions, and we want to continue to get the word out. So we'll be issuing a survey questionnaire to all of our now 330 grantees as of this grant cycle, as well as just continuing to think about how we navigate the complexities of statutory changes and what's up ahead. So that'll take us through the end of this year. In phases 3 through 5, we'll be standing up a stakeholder advisory group, which will be made up of cross sections of all tiers, all counties, all disciplines that we fund, in addition to members of our board and other county representatives to ensure that we've got the equitable lens on this work. And as part of that, our SCFD board is responsible for voting on whatever statutory changes will be referred to the General Assembly for the 2028 session. And so that work will take us through late summer, early fall, so about this time next year, where our board will vote on what that change will look like and what is referred to the General Assembly. And then we'll do some warm transition into the legislative session for 2028. We've been making rounds, so again, really appreciate the time this evening with all of our local officials at the county level, as well as at the city level across the district. I've also been doing lots of one-on-ones with legislators. In fact, I just met with Representative Nguyen last week, very supportive, and I know is actively involved in the arts and culture world with a lot of his great experience. So really excited about what's up ahead, and then that'll lead us into late 2028, where because we receive taxpayer dollars, we're not allowed to campaign for ourselves with funding. So a separate organization called CATS, the Citizens for the Arts to the Zoo, they pick up, once the statute is signed by the new governor, that'll do two things. It reauthorizes us as a special district, and it takes whatever those statutory language changes that were made in the bill process that have to go through voter approval, refers that language to the local ballot for each of the 7 counties. And so CATS will run the campaign from there once that's done, and hopefully get us across the finish line for some success in November of 2028. Next slide, please. So you might be thinking, well, that's a lot of work, and what have you heard so far? What's going on? So you can see here some 6 major points that are coming out of the feedback thus far. So folks really appreciate wanting to secure and have that predictable funding source. So we collect 1/10 of 1 cent. We've never done a tax increase, although we are polling for lots of different sentiments on that for this go around. People really want to make sure that the grant application is something that's consistent and something that people can easily access. It can be challenging there with our tier 3 organizations and county cultural council roles. There are a lot of different nuances and a lot to keep track of, especially if you're a smaller organization with little resources to navigate that. So we want to make sure we're tightening that up. We also universally want to make sure that our current model is equitable in terms of how the funding breaks down across the 3 tiers. Right now, tier 1s are codified in the statute and receive 64% of the funding with some nuance right off the top, whereas tier 2s and 3s go through an eligibility and grant making process. And so how do we reimagine that to modernize and make sure that all boats rise in the outcome of those changes? We want to make sure that we're continuing to address those inequities and really bringing together a sense of belonging across the district, because SCFD, after all, was created in order to influence and really improve cultural experiences for our citizens. And so we want to make sure we're doing that across the board in a consistent way. There's a lot of technical support need that's, a commonplace, in the day-to-day. So we want to make sure we're building strong resources there. And then again, that the county cultural councils continue to build some more consistency in that work. So with that, I hope I'm within my time here. We can go to the final slide here. This QR code will take you to scfd.org. We have a Road to Reauthorization page where we're posting updates, fact sheets, dashboards. We have webinars that we've done in the past that you're encouraged to listen to if you're interested, that just continue to provide that transparent communication to ensure that everyone's coming along with us on this road to reauthorization. Thank you. And with that, I will take questions if there's time.
Thank you. We will now move to public comments. If there's anyone who would like to be heard, please come to the podium and state your name and neighborhood for the record, or press star 9 if you're using the call-in service. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Comments and questions from council are next. Are there any comments or questions? Seeing none, Board Member Schaaf, thank you for being here and for representing Broomfield. And thank you for being here, Ms. Albo. I had the opportunity to attend the July 15th session in Broomfield, which was an engagement session with stakeholders. And so I'm glad you, it seems like you have followed a full process of talking to the stakeholders, and I can see where those recommendations were reflected in what I heard on that, in that July 15th session. So thank you for going through that process, and we'll look forward to what's coming in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
We'll now move to council member reports. Does any member of the council have any reports or updates this evening? Councilmember Hinkle.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Wanted to let everyone know that both Councilmember Todd Cohen and I attended our Metro Area County Commissioners meeting last Friday with Attorney General Phil Weiser. And I also wanted to give everyone a quick update on the WIC work, which is Wildfire Initiated Community Configurations. The basic idea is that a wildfire moving into a developed area is a different kind of emergency than a traditional wildfire or a structure fire. It can create cascading impacts involving evacuation, traffic, fire flow, law enforcement, emergency communications, and potentially a very large number of people needing to move quickly. The regional WIC effort has brought together more than 350 members from over 75 agencies with 6 in-person workshops and more than 5,500 hours of staff participation. The group has been working on common evacuation terminology, alerting methods, evacuation zones and protocols, law enforcement response, traffic management, and a unified command. One thing I found particularly important is the emphasis on having a response plan specifically for this type of incident. For example, the terminology is intended to be consistent across the board. An evacuation warning means prepare to leave, an evacuation order means leave now, and a shelter in place means remain where you are. And a lot of people we've learned have been confused by past labeling. They're also looking at pre-planned evacuation polygons and rapid life-saving activities such as door-to-door notifications and high-low sirens. The concern coming out of this update, though, is funding. More than $120,000 in DHS grant funding has supported the North Central Region's WIC work, but the current grant structure could change in August of 2027, potentially ending the dedicated WIC work unless additional project funding is identified. I just think that this work is worth keeping on our radar because it isn't just a fire response issue, it's a regional emergency management and life safety issue. The success of the program seems to depend on maintaining the regional coordination, training, exercises, and planning that have been built so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Hinkle. Are there any other council members who wish to give a report? I had the opportunity to attend the Teen Council kickoff last night. We had a wonderful group of teens who are going to be working with us this year. We're looking forward to that as council and bringing them into some of our civic activities. They'll be with us during Broomfield Days and at the state legislature and other upcoming events. I also wanted to just remind the public that Broomfield Together Values and Challenges Workshop will take place this Saturday at 9 a.m. It's an update on our comprehensive plan. Of course, this will be a continuing process, so this is just an update. It'll continue for another year or so. The workshop is open to the public. Due to the format, the workshop will not be recorded. While there will be verbal public comments that, well, I should say verbal public comments will not be part of the workshop, but anyone who wants to attend is welcome to submit comments on index cards. So that happens this Saturday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. We will now continue with public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to comment on matters other than the items already listed elsewhere on this evening's agenda. Is there anyone who would like to be heard? Then please come to the podium and state your name and neighborhood for the record. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Hello, my name's Chuck Swain, and I'm from the Wilcox subdivision between Zuna and Lowell, 144th and 156th. I've got a lot of questions that have came up recently in the area, the transition area called Toad. We've got the Lutheran Church that, unbeknown to most of us in the subdivision, suddenly had the rights from a 2016 decision by the city to put in their school classrooms outside to take an additional 100 and up to 150 students. Now, none of these kids drive, but their parents do. So we've got a driving traffic problem brewing. Plus, we're going to have congestion between 7 and 8:30 in the morning and then the afternoon also. Not thought out well. Bothers me. Then we have information going on at the Discovery Church. I asked the mayor about this, probably 90 days ago, and she called somebody. And then at intermission time, she told me they said it was just an exercise they were doing at the church. No, it's no exercise. It's a development plan. They want to stick in 48 low-income housing units and 8 commercial units of 3,000 square feet apiece. That doesn't fit the Toad standards. They do that, we'll have a lawsuit on them and the city, and it'll be a big one. And we'll go forward to terminate and reverse the annexation agreement that I agreed to for that area. And that agreement was that I would agree for the city to annex us, and I had the last 240 acres to deal with, but only on the condition they kept us agriculture, A1, like in Adams County, with no businesses operating out of their garages like beauty parlors, barber shops, and car repair. And we all agreed on that, and the mayor was very much for it. And I wanted to put down a 75-year extension. The mayor wanted it forever, so it's forever. Now, the Toad came later to make a transition area. I was out of town on business to Europe, to DC, to Texas, to Alaska. For that whole period of time, I only attended one meeting, didn't have time to say much. But the Toad says nothing, no units in that area smaller than being on 1 acre. So that takes care of Discovery Church. Now we've got another one coming up, the Farmette at 144th and Federal. He's got about 8.6 acres after you take away Federal and 144th ground from his 10 acres. And then he's got a road to put in. He's got an area for an old oil gas well that has to be honored and kept off of. He's going to have storm drainage. So he's going to have a net 6.1 acres to build on. That means 6 units, not 8. No unit in that thing should be less than an acre. And they ought to have to be clean acres without including the water storage or the oil and gas well back off area. So that's just my concerns there.
Mr. Swain, could you please wrap up? Your time has expired. Could
Okay,
you wrap
I'll
up?
do real quick. I
Thank
have a lot of concerns about the Farmette, and a lot of concerns, light pollution, noise pollution, traffic, density. But then I have an overall concern about our area. We agreed in 2001 to do this, and the city annexed in. We've been in the city since stay A1. Everybody in your city organization seems to be doing everything they can to turn us into a high-density, local city-looking thing like Denver. I suggest that we create our own ward for that area, from 144th to 156th, from Lowell to Zuni, have our own council representatives, and have constant communication with the city. We're different from the rest of the city because of what we are. I ask for that, and we're going to pursue it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Roxy Jula Lackamore. I have a question. For years, I haven't sent my utility bill through the mail to Broomfield. I've always been able to make a face-to-face visit to the county building and pay it and be happy about it. Besides the fact I pay in advance, so I don't have to come every month either. But the bill comes out to me, it's the Broomfield, Colorado utility billing. So I had a problem. I thought I would not be around last month in order to pay my bill. So I thought I better get it sent in. So I was looking at the billing and I went and I slipped the paperwork and stuff into the envelope. And I looked at what was looking at me back to this little window that was on the return envelope, which is here. And then this return envelope goes into here and you get this address here. I don't understand why the return address for the city and county of Broomfield, Post Office Box 209095, Dallas, Texas. Zip is 75320-9095. The post office is not really the best place to be sending anything long distance, let alone our taxpayers' money for a utility bill. Are we incompetent to have it come to our own box or our own facility to have this done? Or is our money being held out of state? Why does it have to go out of state? And if anybody even looks at this, if you have somebody who's older who doesn't look at this and send it through the mail thinking, oh, it's going to be there in a couple of days because they're sending it here to Broomfield, they're going to find out it can take anywhere from 8 to 14 days to get it to Dallas, Fort Worth, or to get it to Dallas, Texas. So I just got a letter from Hutchinson, Kansas, and it took 8 days for me just to get it from Kansas to here to Broomfield. So it could take up to 14 days to get something to Dallas. This is ridiculous. Somebody needs to explain, because in the old days, it went here to Broomfield. It went to the post office here in Broomfield. I don't know how they picked it up. That's not my concern, but it stayed in Broomfield. So is our money not even staying in the state? What's going on?
Thank you.
Want to answer the question?
No, we don't answer the questions. We do have a water utilities item coming up where maybe they might know something about that we could handle that later.
I would say you do it because I think it's really important.
No, I'm sorry, that's not the format we follow. In public comments, we just listen to the public comment.
Well, it's a complaint. You should do something about it.
I mean, we follow up later. Thank you.
Good. You should. Okay, well, I don't know where this item goes, but it's been removed from your agenda. Item 7A regarding e-bike enforcement. Can I talk about that, or is that someplace else in this public forum?
No, you can talk about that now since we removed it from the agenda.
Okay, I want to know why you did, because I was here on June 2nd talking about this exact thing where these e-bikes are driving down sidewalks near nighttime. It's a severe public safety issue. So it says you want to have a study session. I don't know what you're studying. It's already a statute on how you enforce this law. Allowing additional time to clearly understand the challenges. What challenge? I almost saw a woman and her child get run over by these things last month because I sit outside Zuni. First thing, address the community's questions. Well, that's mine. And third, clearly define the policy objectives. I don't know what that means. You have a statute, you have this going on. This is a threat to public safety, and I would assume the city council is concerned with public safety. Is that true? That's a question. Yes or no?
I'm sorry, that's not the format of public comments.
Can't you answer as you guys have voted, can't you answer that question? Yes or no? This is a public safety issue. Yes?
I'm sorry, sir. That's not the format of public comment.
No, you're not sorry. So this is a public safety issue. I got 1 minute and 24 seconds. So I would like to know what this council is going to do about this issue. Are you going to enforce the law that's already on the books? Or are you going to wait, kick it down the road until somebody seriously gets hurt or worse, killed? Because I've seen them flying down. Now you're losing light. They're out there running. It's dusk. It's really hard to see. And these young people don't pay attention. I almost got run down. They were looking at their phones. So can you help me understand what this council is going to do about this public safety issue? And please don't tell me this isn't the forum.
Could the city manager explain the reason we pulled it from the agenda and when we hope to have a study session?
This was a staff initiated specifically from the PD to address exactly what you're talking about, sir. And
Wait a minute, wait. What do you mean what you're talking about? You have a law, you have people that are breaking the law. What are you discussing?
We're bringing it back to a study session because there was, well, give me just a minute.
What are you going to study?
Give me a moment to answer your question, please.
Okay, go ahead.
We're bringing it back for a study session rather than having council make a decision based on the number of questions that were fielded between, give me a minute, between the categories, between electric bikes, electric vehicles, the speed on trails, under what
On
circumstances-
sidewalks.
Sidewalks as well, sir,
Yeah.
and roads included.
Sidewalks, that's more important because there's people, dogs, cats, children, old senior citizens on these sidewalks, and these people come out of nowhere. Someone is going to get hurt. So why are you taking your time studying this?
Sir, if I could answer you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I asked, when this measure came up, I did ask people.
I'm sorry, what?
When this
came up?
measure came up,
Metric?
what is proposed is a change to ordinance. Now, there is existing state law and there's existing ordinance. And as you pointed out, we have determined that existing ordinance does not cover what has developed in terms of scooters and the unicycles and all the variations that have gotten increasingly faster, as you've noted. I think we all have agreed. We have seen people going too fast on sidewalk, going into the street. The police have video of someone who got hit by a car and went flying and miraculously survived. So it's not that we don't care, but we discovered in putting this out that there is a great deal of confusion in the community as to what existing state law actually says between the three classes of e-bikes and where they can go and when they can go, and confusion as to what applied to each vehicle. So because there were so many questions and needed clarity in our mind, as well as the other people that knew that we were hearing from who said they weren't understanding what what was proposed, or they had concerns that this proposal would overly restrict their e-bike usage, that we are going to go to a study session so we can hear from you and hear from other residents as to what their concerns are. I don't think anybody disagrees that we have a safety issue. And I think it's Centennial, am I right? That just passed an ordinance that's similar because we're all having that concern. So it's not a matter that we're delaying, that we want to take it off the table and not act. We just want to make sure we get it right. And we want to make sure the community understands what's being proposed and that we don't have any unintended consequences, particularly for me, that we discourage e-bike usage or we push people into the street off the sidewalk potentially over concerns of fines. There's questions about speed on a regular bike compared to e-bikes, and there's been questions about regular bike traffic rules, et cetera. So there's a lot of questions. So before we go fast too quickly, we just want to have a study session, hear from the community, hear from the experts, and then it'll be back on the agenda for a vote. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's the.
Well, I would think that you already have bike lanes. That's one. So they really don't need to be on the sidewalk. I don't know why these kids are on the sidewalk when there are bike lanes. And then you'll get into this, well, they're not a bike. So again, I'll stop.
It comes to the definition.
But it's the same, like I said, almost plowed me over and I'm pretty good. So I'm thinking like if there's someone in a wheelchair or a walker or a cane, what then? And then you got finger pointing. Yeah, okay. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. We will certainly notify the community when the study session is on the agenda. We will now continue with the reports section of the agenda. City Manager Hoffman or Attorney Rogers, do you have any reports this evening?
I'd like to welcome Danae Brouillard, our Assistant City County Manager, to the dais. We will be rotating between the three of them so that everybody gets the great opportunity to sit this dais for the entire meetings. Welcome, Ms.
Welcome.
Brouillard.
Welcome. No, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Council's consideration of the consent items is next. The clerk will now read the consent items by title, and there will be one opportunity for public comments and council questions and comments. Yeah.
Point of order.
Oh, which one?
We have Bernie,
Oh,
Mr.
no.
Block,
Where did we go?
right after reports.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's not on here. Okay. Sorry. Next, under reports, staff is going to update the council with a semi-annual performance and internal audit update. Sorry. Council has a copy of the agenda memorandum, which I'll ask our staff to summarize.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. No one wants to miss Mr. Block's biannual audit update. Mr. Block, the floor is yours.
Thank you, City Manager Hoffman. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members. Bernie Block, Director of Performance and Internal Audit, here to provide an update of the activities I've been working on since we last met in February of this year. Back in December, we performed a risk assessment that looked at changes in our organizational environment, solicited feedback from senior leadership, considered staff requests, and looked at audit issues impacting local governments. From that, we prepared a potential audits listing that was then priority ranked. And based on that ranking, a draft of the proposed annual audit plan was discussed with the city manager's office and the city and county attorney. Based on their feedback, the project plan was completed, and that's attachment number 1 to your council memo. Attachment number 2 to your council memo is the status updates listing that provides a summary of all audit findings, recommendations, and the status of previously issued audits with open or recently implemented items. Projects that have been recently completed or are currently in progress since the last council update include the custodial maintenance audit, developer incentive agreements audit, the water utilities compliance review. Business process improvement projects include unclaimed property, grants, policy updates, and billing reconciliations, recorder treasurer daily balancing, and the auditorium rental process. I also continue to provide consulting services to staff on a variety of topics such as internal controls and external audit related matters. I participate in professional development activities through the innovation ecosystem that focuses on process improvement, change management, training, and staff mentorship. And then other activities are audit follow-ups on open audit recommendations, employee fraud hotline maintenance, assist with the ERP system implementation as needed, participation in the organizational strategic plan efforts, and then artificial intelligence initiatives. With that, I welcome any questions that you may have related to these activities.
Thank you, Mr. Block. We will now move to public comments. If there is anyone who would like to be heard, please come to the podium and state your name and neighborhood for the record. For anyone using the call-in service, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak on this item. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Questions and comments from council are next. Are there any questions or comments for Mr. Block? Councilmember Delgadillo.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and thank you as always for digging into this, a lot of information here. It was really exciting to see a lot of data standardization and a lot of really great things going on. I have one very broad question and then I have one comment. So my very broad question is how is priority determined exactly? Because there were certainly some items where it's labeled as high and that did make a lot of sense given the potential risk from an HR perspective and things like that. And then there are some others where, you know, would have guessed differently, but I'm just curious to know the methodology there.
So thank you for that question, Councilmember Delgado. It's based on severity and probability. And there's some criteria related to how that works in the matrix. I'd be happy to share that with council after the meeting. I can send that out.
That sounds great. Yeah, nothing totally urgent. That one was just one where it was just very interesting to see. And then the comment that I have is I was very excited to see the enhancements when it comes to asset management and stuff like that and the recommendations that are forthcoming. I'll add in one thing that keeps me up at night when it comes to infrastructure, which is that, you know, there's where we are, there's the change, and then there's the rate of change, and then there's the rate of change, right? And one thing that I always think about is that as we get older and older, not only are we keeping up, but like, what does that slope look like as time goes on? And I think that the projections that we have, I think that covers some of it, but I'm curious if my only comment is really, let's think creatively of how we can see that, because I think we're able to keep up with things now, but we're a pretty new community and we're going to have this huge liability coming. So I'm curious to see the ways in which we can kind of see around the corner and figure this out. But I think that the recommendations here are really good steps in that direction. So that's my comment.
Thank you. And I believe that's the purpose of the asset management system, to provide us with the data that we need to do more effective forecasting for those exact reasons. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Are there any other council member questions or comments? I was glad to see that the grant processing and training has been updated. We've been talking about that for quite a number of years while I've been on council. So do you feel that that process is completed, that all the departments are able to do their own work, I guess is my question.
I believe that, you know, we've had many training sessions that, yes, to answer your question, the short end is yes, I believe so, but that's what we're here, our resources. If anything comes up, we have a grants administrator, and I'm also a resource if, you know, questions come up, but I think they are reconciling those accounts better than we've seen ever. So that's good.
Okay. I did have one item where it was flagged as a high priority that we needed additional resources as an organization for ADA efforts, but that would have to be delayed for a few years. So I just wanted to ensure, I mean, I'm sure we're following and we're compliant with federal guidelines and things, but could you characterize what we need to do as an organization that we are delaying some efforts for?
I believe we have a good process in place now for handling issues that come up either from the public or internally from our employees through human resources. There are infrastructure needs that we address as we make modifications and renovations, but to do a thorough assessment throughout the organization is resource intensive. So it's finding the technologies either through GIS or other ways of being able to continue to ensure that we're doing everything that we can. And at this point, it's just a resource limitation. So it's not as if we're not addressing issues. I think we're doing a good job of that. It's just we can continue to do better.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Block. Okay, now council's consideration of the consent agenda items is next. The clerk will now read the consent items by title, and there will be one opportunity for public comments and council questions and comments. Will the clerk please read agenda items 6A through 6E by title?
6A, approval of minutes for the regular council meetings of August 3rd and August 11th, 2026. 6B, proposed resolution number 2026-92, adopting an updated fee schedule for the Parks, Recreation, and Senior Services Department. 6C, proposed resolution number 2026-103, adopting an amendment to the flag policy on property owned or controlled by the city and county of Broomfield. 6D, proposed resolution number 2026-106, authorizing intergovernmental agreements for election services between the city and county of Broomfield and the Jefferson County School District number R-1 and Weld County School District RE-8. 6E, proposed resolution number 2026-112, approving amendments to council procedures and rules of order.
Thank you. We will now proceed with public comments. If any residents are using the call-in service, they should indicate their desire to speak by pressing *9 to raise their hand. We will start with in-person comments on the consent agenda. If there is anyone who would like to be heard, please come to the podium and state your name and neighborhood for the record. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Is there anyone on? Does any member of council have comments on these agenda items? Councilmember Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor Protem. I am wondering if Attorney Rogers can briefly clarify the flag policy and how that might affect requests for additional flags to be flown in Broomfield.
Thank you, Councilmember Peterson, for that question. A couple years ago, council adopted a flag policy that's specific to CCOB Broomfield flag poles outside our buildings, our facilities, as well as the flag poles upon Midway, to set forth a schedule for the flags on Midway and also set forth a list of what are the permitted flags for our flag poles. This is an option that local governments have of saying, we're going to use our flag poles in this way. It is the government's speech, the government deciding what it's putting out to the community. Another option that some other communities do, if they say, very similar to our podium here tonight, our flag poles are open for anyone. And if you put in a request and we can schedule it and you have the right size, we're not going to put any flag. We have a manner restriction, a size restriction, and you can have it for a week. And they open their flag poles up to whomever submits a flag. And they might fly the flag on a couple flag poles in their areas. So those are the two options. Our flag policy, it really just focuses on that former option where CCOB decides what flags are going to hang there at what time. And like I said, on Midway in a set schedule. So we don't have a policy to open it up to a person to say, hey, can I fly my CSU flag since they're playing CU soon or something like that. Our flag poles are not open to general public use like that.
Thank you very much.
Are there any other council member comments or questions? Seeing none, is there a motion by council that consent items 6A through 6E be approved? Councilmember Hinkle.
So moved.
Is there a second? Councilmember Ward.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Council, please cast your vote electronically. All council members have entered their vote. The results will now be displayed on the screen. That passes 9-0. Thank you. Next, we'll go to the action items. A reminder that item 7A regarding the operation of electric bikes and other personal and off-highway motorized vehicles has been pulled from tonight's agenda. The topic will be heard at a future study session. Next, under action items, staff is going to provide the council with a drought status update. Council has a copy of the agenda memorandum, which I'll ask our staff to summarize.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Making his way down is Mark Laurie. He's the Deputy Director of Water Utilities. Hot topic that we're going to talk about next. A lot of folks are wondering why we don't have watering restrictions, and I'm sure you're going to walk us through that, Mr. Laurie. The floor is yours.
Thank you, City Manager Hoffman. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. I think this will be your last drought update for this year, unless things change dramatically in the last couple months of the year here. You may remember in July at your enterprise update, we had talked about how conditions on the reuse system looked a little bit concerning. And so we scheduled this action item for tonight in case we wanted to recommend a drought status 1 for the reuse system. I'm actually going to recommend remaining on drought watch for both potable and the reuse systems, and we'll get into that. I have a pretty brief presentation. Next slide, please. So just to recap where we are, I'm sure you're all well aware that it's been very hot and very dry. The map on the upper left is the U.S. Drought Monitor for Colorado from last week. The darker reds are extreme, what they label extreme drought and exceptional drought, which is most of Colorado at this point, including most of Broomfield. The monsoon has been bringing rain in the last few weeks, but most of it's kind of missed Broomfield for whatever reason. So we haven't seen a lot of rain. Chart on the lower right is precipitation for this year. The blue bars are what we would expect on average. The red bars are what we got this year. You can see that each red bar is generally substantially less than the blue bars. So we've had a pretty big precipitation deficit throughout the year. Normally, this would lead people to water their lawns and HOAs to water their turf areas much more than they would in an average year. That really isn't what we've been seeing. Next slide, please. So for the potable water system, we are recommending that we remain in drought watch. Our supply conditions have not really changed at all from prior updates this year. Despite the hot and dry conditions that I just summarized, potable use has remained pretty much on our historical average. So on the chart below, the blue dots are this year's use, the gray dotted line is our last 5-year average. And you can see that other than an early ramp up in the spring when folks were firing up their irrigation systems early, that water use has pretty much been right on that 5-year average and hasn't really been exceeding it other than that spring's period. And we've been well below our peak year of 2024. So in sum, Broomfield residents and businesses have been heeding the call and have been making some sacrifices to irrigate their grass areas, whether it's HOAs, businesses, or private homeowners, less than they might otherwise given the hot, dry conditions. We can actually quantify the difference. I'm not going to go into that, but we can kind of figure out how much we would expect them to use and how much they've actually used, and it's a pretty big difference. So it's actually a big thank you to the community for stepping up and making those sacrifices. You do see some stressed lawns around town, some brown lawns around town. I think those are sacrifices that the community has made to use less water this year than they might have otherwise. Next slide. Okay, for the reuse system, so this one's slightly more complicated. We did say to you in July that water use on the reuse system among our raw water and our reuse customers was near record highs through mid-July. And that Great Western Reservoir storage in Great Western Reservoir was dropping at a pace that we felt was unsustainable for the rest of the irrigation season. So on July 16th, staff sent a letter to all of our reuse and our raw water customers asking for a voluntary 20% cut in water use. We shared that with you on July 21st, I think it was, at the enterprise update. So we sent that letter out. We did get some commitments back from some customers that they would try to cut. We've had some back and forth with a few customers about changes they can make. And about 10 days ago, I spent some time quantifying what the numbers look like. You can see in the lower chart, we've had about a 10% reduction in overall water use on the reuse system. In addition to that, our water resources team and our wastewater team worked a little harder on kind of re-optimizing how we use Great Western Reservoir and how we pump treated reuse water from the wastewater facility. And so the bottom line of that is we're taking less water out of Great Western Reservoir. We're pumping more water from the wastewater facility on a daily basis. So that's also helped to stabilize the Great Western storage levels. So we're less concerned about the sustainability of Great Western Reservoir for the rest of the season, and we think we're just fine remaining in drought watch for the reuse system. So again, a good thank you to all of our reuse customers and our raw water customers for making those cuts and making those sacrifices. It's helped us kind of be in a better position here today. Next slide. So just to sum up, kind of a pat on the back to the community. People have really made that sacrifice, and we're very grateful for that. It's put us in a good position going into 2027. Certainly want to ask everybody to keep up the good work. I keep hoping it's going to cool off and start raining, and it keeps not raining and not cooling off. So we're going to have probably another month or two, hopefully not more than that, of needs to irrigate turf and trees and so forth and gardens around Broomfield. So just asking the community to keep up the good work, use water as efficiently as you can for your landscape areas so that we can be in a good position for next year. Believe it or not, we're already thinking about next year. Kevin Allen, our superintendent of water resources, has been working hard to connect with other water users in the area to acquire. You can actually acquire, I've talked before about our carryover capacity, the amount of water of CBT water that we can legally essentially carry over from one year to the next. You can actually lease some of that capacity from other entities, and he's been working to connect with other entities and acquire some more of that carryover capacity, which will just give us more water going into next year. And I shudder to say this, but January is 4 months away. So we'll be looking closely at snowpack as it develops over the winter to see if we're in for another dry year or if things will improve for going into 2027. So do your snow dances as winter approaches. And as I said, I think this will be the final update for this year unless we see something really wild dramatically change between now and say October or so. That's all I have. So I'd be happy to entertain any questions that you all have about conditions as they stand or where we're heading.
Great, thank you. We will now move to public comments. If there's anyone who would like to be heard, please come to the podium and state your name and neighborhood for the record. For anyone using the call-in service, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak on this item. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Roxy Jula Lockmore. I know you made the statement that we could maybe pull some water from other entities. I've been around the Front Range now quite a bit. And the other entities are low on water too. And they'll have to pull from anybody that they can pull from. And Colorado is not looking very favorable. I'm curious, I know that if Dillon Reservoir goes much lower, that Denver's going to start having some problems. And I know we get quite a bit of our water from Denver. Are we at any point thinking that we might have to consider a true drought next year? And I'm speaking with minimum snow because unless something, if Mother Nature decides to give us a lot of snow in the mountains, we have a lot of reservoirs up in the mountains that are looking pretty bad. There's no fishing. That's why the bears are coming to the city, because there's no berries, there's no nothing. And this is in all of my, I'm not going to say how old I am, but in all of my time right now, this has probably been for the Front Range and the mountains, probably the worst I have seen it. Out where I come from on the Eastern Plains, yeah, they've had some pretty good rains, but they also got hailed out a couple of times. So when it comes to the agricultural side, they haven't had the best, but at least they had a few rains. But most of that had to go downstream because once it dries, just like here, it gets onto the ground and it runs away. So there's no soaking in. So I'm just a little worried. I'm hoping that you're not afraid to call a true drought next year if we really need to. I think that's what a lot of people are thinking about this year. And I know we've had the water that we can back up, but next year, I just want to make sure that you're not afraid to go ahead and call a true drought. And we'll have to enforce it even through the HOAs, along with regular taxpayers of Broomfield. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? We have questions and comments from council next. Councilmember Hinkle.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you for the presentation, heading into a very difficult season and predicting what we're going to have in 2027. I appreciate the communication on making sure that our reuse customers are, pulling back. It sounded like we wanted them to do a voluntary 20%. Are we still communicating even though they hit the 10% mark? Are we communicating, hey, we've hit 10%? Could we, ramp it up a little bit more?
Thank you, Councilmember Henkel, for that. Yeah, we're in pretty regular contact with many of our reuse customers. There's some of them that are smaller and we're not as in contact with, but several of our large HOAs and golf courses, Interlochen, Greenway Park, we're in pretty regular communication with them for a whole host of reasons. So we do kind of reiterate these messages of drought, use water efficiently. Many of those are the ones that did give us commitments that they were going to cut. And in addition to that, I should have mentioned, but I didn't. CCOB Parks is the biggest single category of water use on the reuse system. We have been closely coordinating with them, and they planned out some cuts on, especially on non-athletic fields, where they were going to do 20% reductions. So we are continuing to talk about that pretty much with everybody that we can on the reuse system.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And then just to sort of piggyback on what Ms. Jewell was saying, I agree. I have concerns about 2027. My next question that I had typed up earlier, at what point will we have enough information about 2027 in that water year to know if we're going to have a problem during summer? What are some key indicators that we're going to be looking at? I know you said snowpack. Are there other key indicators?
Yeah, thank you for that. I'll try not to geek out on this too much. So how much time do you have? So the Northern Water Board, the first benchmark we'll look for is the Northern Water Board sets an initial quota for the CBT system in November. It's almost always 50%. That's sort of the floor that they're setting for the year. They do occasionally set it at 40%. I don't know of a time when they've set the fall quota lower than 40%. So we'll look to see what they do in November. That's usually their second or third meeting in November. I'd be surprised if they don't do 40% this year, just to send a signal that they're getting ready for drought. Beyond that, it's going to be the same timing that it was this past winter, roughly. So we'll be watching snowpack probably starting in January. I mean, literally, the team at Water Utilities was discussing this mid-January. You think we're only halfway through winter, but once a pattern sets in, you're pretty confident that a pattern's going to be there, and we're starting to think about it. So we track snowpack throughout the winter. If it looks bad enough, we'd probably give you an update in the winter. That's possible on one of the enterprise updates, to just say it's possible that we're going to come to you with a recommendation this spring. The real critical dates are going to be in the spring. So we're on a curtailment from Denver Water of 20% through whenever they decide to update that at the end of next snowpack season. So that's probably going to be March, April, possibly May, but it's probably going to be March or April that they would decide whether they're going to continue that curtailment or relax it or get rid of it altogether. And then the Northern Water Board sets their mostly final quota for the CBT system in April. It's usually their second meeting in April. So it'll be the same timing as it was this year. If we were going to make a recommendation, it would be late April, early May. And we're, through our procedures, we're on top of that. So we're thinking about it, like I said, January, February. If we think there's going to be a need to make a recommendation and have an agenda item for you all on your action agenda, we'll schedule that in February-ish, so that, we can get some lead time and make sure that we're able to get that when we want to get it on the agenda in April or May.
Great. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you. Councilmember Ward.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. My first question might be for Attorney Rogers. I'm not entirely sure. Is in regards to the reuse water system, but specifically for Interlochen in the special agreement that they got decades ago. Does that agreement contemplate what happens during a drought? And by that, I mean, are they subject to the same restrictions that we could impose on other reuse users? Or because of their special agreement, we are obligated to provide them the full amount that they agreed to in 1980 something, 1990?
Thank you for that question, Councilmember Ward. I actually didn't pull the agreement to prep for tonight, and I apologize for that. But Mark, Mr. Laurie, I'm sorry, you're good on that one, I think.
Yeah,
because we have talked about this with Carl Front is our attorney that works with Mark on those agreements.
Yeah, I think it'll be worth doubling back and making sure we'll review the agreement again, but we have reviewed that agreement with Carl Front, one of our attorneys in the attorney's office. And the agreement says that they are subject to all rules and ordinances that the city passes. So if we pass drought restrictions, they are subject to the drought restrictions.
Okay, wonderful. My next question is probably just something that some people are thinking in their head right now, just in the community. We have some people who are taking this threat of a drought, for us specifically, but just the state of Colorado having a drought very seriously and cutting back on water. And then there are going to be others who don't. Besides us having a sufficient amount of water for all of our kind of 5-year average that we're seeing, is there any other reason we wouldn't go into a official drought, not just a drought watch, but an official drought status? Because I think some people are probably feeling irritated that they're cutting back and then others are not. And there's not really consequences right now without the official drought declaration.
Thank you, Councilmember Ward. That's a tricky question. So in terms of what's happening now, and some people are cutting back and some aren't, the best we can do is communicate, take the complaints we get from the community, investigate them, do our enforcement actions, and try to make sure as many people are complying with what we're asking as possible, as well as continue to get the message out there about, I think you'd have to be sleeping under a rock to not be aware that we're in a drought or that the Colorado River is in some concern right now. So I think more and more people are taking it seriously. In terms of declaring a drought stage 1, I feel strongly, and I think it's a standard practice in the water sector and the water industry, that you really do it based on the overall water supply and demand balance. That it's taxing on staff, it's taxing on the community. It imposes a lot of costs to go into a mandatory restriction. You've seen the news stories about Denver and about Aurora and other communities that actually do have mandatory restrictions, and the amount of work that it takes to make that happen. And it creates even more controversy. So we don't really want to do that unless it really is necessary based on our supply and our demand balance and what we expect. I think to solve the problem that you've highlighted, we want to continue to step up communications, reach people that we're not reaching. We're looking at, in fact, today, our water resources team kicked off our new process to develop the new water efficiency plan, which will probably involve some new communication strategies, new communication methods that might make us better both during normal times and during drought times. I think that's probably where we have to go in terms of trying to equal those things out, but it's certainly always going to be a challenge.
Okay. I'm glad you mentioned that cost benefit analysis, because that leads me into my next question, which is about the decision that staff is going through right now about potentially leasing some additional rights for carryover. I assume the reason we want to do the carryover is to ensure we don't go into a drought declaration potentially next year. Would that be correct?
It's I wouldn't quite put that
one of the reasons.
Yeah, it's an insurance policy. So yeah.
Okay. Are we doing that same kind of cost benefit analysis between how much that leasing right is going to be for whatever period of time that is versus going into an official drought declaration?
We have not done a formal cost benefit analysis. This particular lease that gave us additional carryover capacity to basically allow us to hold more CBT water into next year was essentially a swap. It's with a ditch company, a farming organization. We actually leased them some CBT water for this year because we finally realized we're going to have a little bit extra. So we leased them some CBT water for this year. In addition to them paying for that water for this year, they gave us their carryover capacity going into next year. So it was essentially a payment and a swap because they don't have any CBT water left, so they're not going to have anything to carry over in the next year. So they gave us the carryover capacity. So in a way, it's a win-win for us.
Okay, great. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Peterson.
Yes, thank you. I'm just wondering if you, or actually Manager Hoffman just stepped out, have an answer to Ms. Jewell's question about why we are outsourcing our billing for water utilities and what the grace period is for that?
I think City Manager Hoffman was going to hope to address that, but you want to take that?
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. Ken Rutt, Water Utilities Director. We'll be reaching out to our finance department because they're the ones that oversee the utility billing department. And we will be back in touch with Ms. Jewell and also with council in advising them what that outcome is.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there any other council member comments or questions? Okay, seeing none. Thank you for the update. The final item under action items is council consideration on first reading of a proposed ordinance related to review criteria for administrative amendments to site development plans. Council has a copy of the agenda memorandum, which I'll ask our staff to summarize.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. This evening we have Deputy City and County Manager Anna Bertanzetti.
Thank you. And thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. This evening, I'm here to present ordinance number 2305, which updates the review criteria for site development plan amendments specific for administrative review. This ordinance was prepared and has been brought forward based on council direction. Next slide, please. So as mentioned, this request came forward from council because when residents choose to buy or rent a home in a residential development, whether that's an apartment, a townhome, or a single family residence, they often rely on the amenities that are shown on the approved site development plan. That could be a pool, could be nearby trails and recreation centers, it could be a dog park. Right now, a developer can propose changes to these amenities that could result in a reduction in the size of the amenities through an administrative process. That means that no public hearing would be required. Ordinance number 2305 changes this. Any modification under this ordinance that would reduce or eliminate a permanent outdoor recreation facility would no longer qualify for administrative approval. It would go through a public hearing process. Next slide, please. So this ordinance would add one new finding to section 1738-230. It allows the location and size of recreation facilities to be changed administratively only if two conditions are met. The first is that the size of the facility cannot be changed, or cannot be reduced, I should say. And second, the new location and design must remain appropriate given the approved site development plan. Next slide, please. It's important to note that this additional finding is in addition to all the existing requirements in place for administrative review of changes for site development plans. So applicants would still have to show that any proposed change to a site development plan, for example, wouldn't be able to reduce landscaping materials or plantings. It can't increase parking by more than 10%, and it needs to satisfy all of those other required findings that have things to do with building heights, dimensions, and a variety of things. So this only adds one new review criteria. Next slide, please. So if under this amendment, if a proposed modification can't meet the new required finding, it doesn't mean that the developer still couldn't propose this change. It just means that it can't be approved administratively and will have to go through a public hearing process. That means a full review by the Land Use Review Commission at a public hearing to provide an opportunity for public comment and consideration by City Council, either at a public meeting or through the council call-up process, depending on the process involved with the size of the property. The goal is to make sure that changes in amenities, when there are changes to amenities residents may have relied on when they moved into a certain development, that there aren't changes to it without a public process and an opportunity for them to be involved in the review. And I should say this process provides also some more discretion. Council can then, through that public hearing process, still consider reductions to the size of a recreation facility but they can weigh whether the changes represent a trade-off, for example, that merits that consideration, improved accessibility or enhanced recreational value, for example. Next slide, please. So if council wishes to proceed with this ordinance this evening, 2305, the recommendation would be to approve on first reading and order it published, and then we'll hold a public hearing and second reading on September 22nd. And with that, I will conclude staff's presentation and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Deputy Manager Burton-Zetti. We will now proceed with public comments. If any residents are using the call-in service, they should indicate their desire to speak by pressing *9 to raise their hand. We will start with in-person comments. If there is anyone who would like to be heard, please come to the podium and state your name and neighborhood for the record. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, staff, Jesse Applegate, Country Estates. To be frank, I'm very surprised that we didn't already have something like this on the books. I highly support it. Thank you.
Thank you. We have no individuals on the phone. Questions from council are next. Members should limit themselves to questions during this portion. The time to introduce amendments and state positions for and against this item is later. Are there any questions? Councilmember Brown.
Mayor Pro Tem, and thank you, Ms. Burton-Zetti, for the presentation. I was just wondering quickly if you could speak to the memo states there won't be any financial impacts anticipated because you're already going through the review process. I'm just wondering if you can speak to volume, if there is, a sense of how many things might now get kind of caught in this process.
Thank you, Councilmember. We had this conversation internally as we were drafting that portion of the memorandum, and it did make us pause. How many of these do we really review on a given year? And really, our staff found that we really do not see a lot of significant changes to the recreation amenities once they've been approved. We see some adjustments. Trail alignments often get changed. That I don't think that would often trigger this requirement. If we're still connecting a trail from A to B, but the alignment is adjusted in between, we wouldn't consider that a reduction in the trail connectivity or the amenity. But if we provide feedback to the applicants that they are not able to reduce the number of swing sets or change things, we think that either they will they'll meet the requirements of this SDP today, or they'll likely be able to adjust their proposal to meet the requirements for administrative review, or we may see 1 or 2 a year that decide to go through the full process. We don't think that there will be significant volume.
Wonderful. Thank you for addressing that. That's all I have.
Thank you. Do we have any other council questions? Okay. Next is council's consideration of proposed ordinance number 2305. Will the clerk please read the proposed ordinance by title?
7C ordinance number 2305 to amend chapter 17-38-230 of the Broomfield Municipal Code regarding the standards of review for modification of site development plans.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the ordinance on first reading in order published in full and set the hearing for September 22nd, 2026? Councilmember Ward.
So moved.
Is there a second? Councilmember Hinkle.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing no further discussion, we will move forward to the vote on ordinance number 2305. Council, please cast your vote electronically. All council members have cast their vote. The results will now be displayed on the screen. That passes 9-0. Thank you. There are no mayor or council member requests for future action this evening. Is there any other business to come before the council from my council colleagues or staff?
Mayor Pro Tem, just an answer to the resident, Ms. Jules' question. Our finance director was listening and indicated that Wells Fargo is our bank and part of their processing, the unit is in Dallas. And so whether it be individual residents and or our bulk processing, it all goes to Dallas. It's going to continue to go to Dallas. We haven't had issues of payments not arriving on time or late payments. So we'll certainly keep an eye on that.
City Manager Hoffman, has that been, is this something new that it's going to Dallas, or
It
that
is not.
Ms. Jewell just observed it, but she just observed it?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other business from council? There being no further business, the business meeting is adjourned. Have a nice evening.